Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Limit Breakdown, where we review everything in TV shows, movies, and entertainment. I'm your host, Sid.
I'm Migs.
And today we're going to be reviewing the new Air movie about Michael Jordan and Nike. Our too long didn't watch review is 3.5 hearts. That means it's a pretty entertaining watch, and you should go check it out. Now, why we gave it 3.5 hearts is because it was way funnier than we expected. It sticks to the true events that actually happened fairly well. And the story was pretty well paced. There was not really a crazy dull moment or anything like that.
However, we did feel that there was unnecessary tension at a lot of points in the story where it didn't necessarily need to be. And it was over dramatized what was essentially a business transaction. But that was the name of the game. But tune in with us after the intro for our in-depth thoughts and review. Welcome back to the Limit Breakdown, and we're going to be reviewing Air, the Michael Jordan and Nike story, how they came up with the Air Jordan. So, Sid, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Give us your initial thoughts on this movie.
So I'm going to be completely honest. I'm not I'm not really a sports movie fan. I do enjoy them, but I'm not a fan of them. As well as I do enjoy Michael Jordan. I like his career. I'm not really a shoe head, so Nike wasn't really like a big thing to me.
Yeah.
So walking into this movie, I wasn't like as hyped or as, like I expected a lot. I walked in there purely for a movie perspective, right?
Yeah.
So that's where my perspective is coming from.
Yeah.
Having said that, I genuinely enjoyed this movie.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be a little bit slower. It was going to be a little draggy. They might mess up the events a little bit. So I actually read on the actual events that happened to see how well this movie would pace or how parallel compared to the it. And I was pleasantly happy. Overall, I was actually pleasantly happy about this movie. Like we said earlier, it was very well paced. I did not find a lull moment anywhere. Too much of a lull moment. Like I'm like, okay, this scene could be cut out, or this could be dragged out, or not dragged out, something like that. It was pretty enjoyable. Like it kept going the whole time, and prior to this movie, I did not know how this transaction happened.
Yeah.
So now watching on the back end, I'm very intrigued, and I'm very glad that I saw this movie because now I know what happened, and I'm happy with that.
So I really enjoyed Matt Damon's performance in this. It's funny because it really kind of felt like one of those one-act plays. Because it was, it wasn't a particularly large cast. And the story mainly focused on Matt Damon's character and his interaction with all of the people and getting the deal struck. I enjoyed seeing, I guess a little bit of the background process of what it took to make the deal. One of my criticisms was about how there was, unnecessary tension. I think they went out of their way to kind of make Nike seem like an underdog, and it's, it was still like a multi-billion-dollar company at the time. But as we were discussing before we started recording, I guess in the scheme of where Nike was at when it came to their basketball shoe division, they kind of were like the underdogs. So it was interesting to see that perspective. It was the humor was right on point for me. I loved how he shows up. Matt Damon shows up at the Jordan's house, and he's like, "Well, they told me it'd be rude to call," so he's like, "I'm just gonna show up."
Yeah, I really like Matt Damon. I think he's probably one of my favorite actors. And what's funny is recently I saw another one of his biopic type movies is Ford versus Ferrari.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen that one. And it's also based on a true story.
Okay.
And I found a lot of similarities of his acting there. He does really good, capturing the essence of that character. Because if you watch this movie, he captures the essence of the character versus when he does Ford versus Ferrari, he captures he was Carroll Shelby in that movie, essence of that character. So I really like that. Same thing with Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck is always Ben Affleck to me.
Yeah.
He always just broods, but I still think he does a good performance for what is given.
Yeah.
Right. He doesn't go above and beyond, but it is performance of what is given. And as you said, the humor was pretty solid. I'm a huge Chris Tucker fan.
Oh yeah. So, he was great.
Huge Chris Tucker fan. And I think he gives the comedy just the edge that you need. He doesn't overdo it, and I think it was fantastic on his performance there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, overall, all of the characters were pretty entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Tucker had a cameo, and I guess you can call it a cameo.
No,
was it Chris Tucker? Yeah, it was Chris Tucker.
I was just talking about Chris Tucker.
No, who was it? Marlon Wayans.
Yeah.
Marlon Wayans had I guess like a little cameo.
Yeah,
brief scene.
Yeah, I was not expecting that. That was actually pretty cool. Overall, I think so. Like I said, so I went back and read the actual transaction that happened, and obviously you have to take it with a grain of salt. It is a Hollywood movie. They have to do, they have to have a good guy, a bad guy, a struggle, a high and a low. But more or less, it pretty much followed what happened, right? So they were approached. Michael Jordan was approached by Nike, but he was actually also approached by Converse and Adidas.
Mm-hmm.
And the money that Nike originally gave, Adidas was like, we'll give you a little bit more than this.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jordan, I think Jordan's mom was like, we'll take the Nike deal if you give us the percentage as well.
Yeah.
And then they worked with the whole department.
Yeah.
And I think,
and at that time, nothing like that had ever been done.
Yeah, it's usually they're like, here's X amount of money, that's it. And then we get them, they're like, no, we want the X amount of money. We might even lower it, but we're going to get percentage later on.
Yeah.
And I think it was the very, very end of the movie is where they're like, we projected to have, what was it, like 3 million sales for this? And they ended up with 160 million, which is the same thing, which happened in real life. The guy, the actual scout was like, yeah, we expected, he's like, I honestly expected like 5 million. And then once that happened, he was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
And he still calls up Michael Jordan, and he's like, yo, I'm glad we made this deal. Let's collaborate more. So I'm very glad that they kept pretty well to the source material for what it was. Obviously, there was a few more. I think in this movie, Adidas and Converse were more like there just to add the complexity and the antagonist feel. But overall, it was just like, oh, there's another deal going on. But wait, let me show you all this cool stuff.
They went out of their way to make Jordan's lawyer seem extra douchey too.
Yeah. That was definitely the case.
But I mean, like I said, for what the movie is, like you were saying, it's a sports biopic, and not trying to be kind of snobbish about it, but it's about as entertaining as a movie about a shoe deal can be. And so, and like you said, I'm not particularly a sneakerhead. I do enjoy sports movies, but I wouldn't even call it a sports movie because it was
more of a backstory.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was really cool to kind of see that back and forth. I didn't realize that Michael Jordan originally was so hyped up on Adidas, but it makes sense for the time because
Adidas at the time 80s, was the shoe. Even I remember me growing up, Adidas was the jam to do. Even Reebok was on top.
Dude, those Adidas tracksuits still slap.
Oh yeah, I actually have a few. They're the stripes, man. I like some Adidas. But even actually back then, just off topic. But even back then, Reebok was it.
Yeah.
Nike was just another third competitor. It wasn't the powerhouse that it is today. Another thing that came to mind while I was watching this movie, I don't know if you've seen King Richard with Will Smith about the
I've heard reviews. I haven't actually watched
he's the father of Serena and Venus Williams and how he trained them. And there's a scene at the end of the movie where they're trying to sign for a shoe deal. They're like, sign right now, and we're ready to rock. And I think it was Adidas as well. I can't remember if Adidas and Nike. And they actually refused to sign. And later in the movie, they're like, they actually signed with Reebok for a lot more money. So it kind of reminded me that a lot of times these companies will come in and be like, here's X amount of money for the athlete. And sometimes the athlete's like, I want to show who I am before I make the deal. But in this movie, it was more, Michael Jordan was still a rookie,
Yeah.
but people knew he was a very a good hot rookie.
Yeah.
And they weren't willing to put too much money into him. That's why their expected sales were only low millions.
And I mean, look, it's one of those things too that like I think the average person doesn't really take into consideration, and they brought it up in the movie itself, but like, you know, signing these athletes to these multi-million-dollar endorsements and deals is actually a risky endeavor, because like you said, he could go step on the court, you know, blow his knee out in the very first game, and then his career's done.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So there's no guarantee that he's gonna do any of the things that he has the potential to do. So you know, it was very much a gamble on Nike's part at the time. And I mean, although you know everyone expected him to do great things, but you know that's the nature of sports. You know, you never know what can happen out there on the field. But yeah, so that was pretty interesting. And like I said, as far as you know, considering the source material, I thought it was immensely entertaining. They did a good job. It had a good amount of humor and levity, and made what is normally a mundane process seem entertaining.
Yeah. There's a lot of, like I said, useless tensions in there, but it was I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good movie to watch, and you know, if you're just like, hey, I just want to watch it and kind of learn about it, it's pretty good.
Yeah. I didn't know about the thing with the NBA rules about the shoe having to be like 50% white.
Yeah, so that was the other thing. That was the flip side to it was so X amount of percentage of the shoe had to be white, and then the red swoosh, right? And then when they started changing up that percentage, it was more of a rebellious thing where, oh, Nike's doing this rebellious thing to go against the NBA. Yeah. And at the end of the day, it paid off. Yeah. Which was, I mean, I didn't know that either, actually. Yeah, I didn't know that, but
was pretty cool.
And then they painted Nike like this rebel type group, which is, in my mind, is more of a Converse thing. Yeah. But at that one, I guess they pushed their envelope and they got it done. So
yeah. Any final thoughts that you want to end with?
I have two. One is overall the movie. Like I said, entertaining movie. If you want to know the backstory of how Jordan and Nike got together to make Air Jordans, and all those, the scene where they're finally making the shoe and the swoosh and the design of the the Jumpman. I thought that those scenes were really awesome. I really enjoyed it, especially when he names it Air, and he's like, "What do you want to call it?" Air, and he's like, it was pretty funny. Well, like I said, useless tension sometimes they added it in there, but overall, still an entertaining movie. Number two, if you do want to know a little bit more about the backstory of Michael Jordan, there's a phenomenal docu movie type thing called The Last Dance.
Yes, absolutely,
really good. So if this piqued your fancy about Michael Jordan or Nike or anything like that, watch The Last Dance. It's about Michael Jordan mainly, but it's really, really good. And I highly suggest everybody watching that. Yeah. What about you?
No, just very much on the same beat. I enjoyed the movie. It was entertaining. It was humorous. And, you know, I wouldn't say, oh my God, you know, you have to see this movie. But if you're on a lull one day and you want something entertaining to watch, it's a good way to kill 2 hours.
Yeah. It's a good happy ending movie. So it's nothing like super negative or sad. Like it's entertaining.
You could tell that they very much had like the Jordan's approval on the movie, because they just like sucked up and kissed up to Jordan about as much as you could in a movie. So
yeah, I will say they made Nike a hard underdog, and they painted Michael Jordan to be like this prophecy of which he was. And don't get me wrong, he was a is a fantastic basketball player, and he definitely changed the sport for what it is. But in the movie, they made him like this golden boy prophet, which I thought was a little overrated.
I thought it was funny with the scene with the the grocery store clerk.
Oh yeah, he's like
where it's just like, oh yeah, everybody knew he was gonna be great. When earlier in the movie he had asked him, he's like, oh yeah, he's not gonna be that good.
yeah, that was funny.
So some Monday morning quarterbacking. That was pretty funny.
That was pretty good. Pretty good.
But yeah, that's all we got for you today. Thanks for tuning in. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps us out with the algorithm. And stay tuned and check us out for more content coming up on the channel. We appreciate you as always.